What is up, everybody? Welcome back to, I think, part 5 of our WordPress plugin building series. Could be part 6. I think it's part 5. Anyway, so last time what happened was we left it right here where we had just added a plugin menu page for our plugin, and there's quite a bit of code to write today, at least by a 10-minute standard. So we're just going to hop right into it. As the title for this video suggests, guess what we're going to be doing today? Yep, you guessed it. We're going to be saving some settings to our administrative page. And we're going to be registering those settings in our WordPress, which should go pretty easy for us. There's a lot of stuff. What I'll do is I'll show you the initial code, and then I'll, like behind the scenes, I'll pause the video for a second, add the rest, and unpause. That way you don't have to sit there and watch me write out exactly the same code 10 times in a row, okay? And, or do any pasting or anything like that. I'd rather just show you how it works, and then any duplicate code, just put it in and then keep going. So. All right, so, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, hey, subscribe, will you, partner? Everything's free. And like I said, I have some affiliate marketing videos coming too. I'm really excited about those ones. And it's not selling a course or MLM or anything. It's actually just teaching the foundations of affiliate marketing. So those are coming also, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so let's get right into it here. Last time we left off where we were, what were we doing? Yeah, we had just created our settings page, and we just put this out in there, right? And I deleted it from the local WordPress installation, so it's not in there anymore because I wanted to do it on my desktop and then put it back in there like I do each video. So here's what we're going to do now is we're going to start adding some code right about here, all right? After this H1, because we're going to need to put in a form. And in WordPress, when you're dealing with options, the forms are really specific. They have a very, very, very specific way that they need to be ran in order for your settings to save. And by the way, it's really cold where I'm recording. It's like 35 degrees. So if I'm typing slow, it's because my hands are frozen. All right, so let's go for form. Actually, I can do it with Emmet. Which I am going to do with Emmet. This is a part of Visual Studio Code that you just type in and then you hit tab and it gives you the whole, it's pretty neat. So I'm going to drop this guy down to the bottom because we're actually going to close the PHP like I told you in the last video. We're going to include some variables in here. Okay, so the first thing we got to do in our form is it wants an action. An action is where we want the settings to be saved, and WordPress also has this built in because it's smart somewhat. And so it wants it to go to an endpoint called options.php. Options.php will handle this form for us, and it will know to save the settings into the proper group once we set all that up. It knows how to basically parse the information. And by the way, the method for this form has to go via post. You guys, if nobody understands that, if you're having a hard time understanding the difference, post means that the information travels invisibly, securely through a header, meaning it's not displayed anywhere in the page. And a get variable is like when it's in your URL bar, or like it shows like the forms in your URL bar. That's called get, and they end up as query strings in your URL. But in our case, we want them to travel in this. In order for it to work with options.php, they have to be passed through post because that's how it reads them in the options.php. Once again, we didn't build options.php. That's built into WordPress. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're gonna we're gonna reopen our PHP here, okay? Because we need to do that in order to, let me see, beep bop. All right, we need to do that in order to output some stuff for this form. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add a security protocol to the form. This is vitally important so that it can't be tampered with. And the way we do this, let's just call it output security fields. This video might be a little bit longer too because there's a lot to go over in here. So in WordPress, this is done by doing something called settings fields. Okay, this is what this adds is what's called a nonce, which is a number used once. To put this simply to you, let's see, how can I describe it in the most simple way? It's like hidden inputs. It automatically adds hidden inputs to this form that connects to the correct settings group. When you save settings in WordPress, they go into what's called a group, okay? And this is how WordPress is able to understand that these settings pertain all to the same thing. So to your plugin, we're going to create a settings group, and there's going to be fields within that settings group, and it's all going to connect together, okay? So we'll have this group of settings for the GPT Talker. It'll be called GPT Talker settings group. Then we'll have form fields that are part of that group. And then those will save, when we put them into this form, it allows us to overwrite and save them. But for security inside of WordPress, we need to create hidden fields with a nonce that makes it so that the field, or it can't be tampered with. This is like an internal WordPress thing. It's pretty cool. It makes it so that hackers and stuff can't change it, or the fields can't be hacked. It's pretty cool. And it makes sure that it specifies which group the form is saving to, like I was just saying. So, but here's what this wants from us. This actually wants from us it wants a name of our settings group to know which one we're working with, and we haven't actually built it yet. So let's go ahead and name it now. Let's call it GPT Chat Settings Group. So that's what our group's actually going to be called. All right, and we're going to you'll see in a minute. We're going to use it down below also. Now we need to output the actual settings. Output the settings themselves, the settings section, because you have to have a section, and fields. You have to actually create a section settings on this page, and then the fields load into that section. It's kind of like a lot of WordPress works like this, how it sets up a place and then things load into that place. So we're actually going to set a section. So we're going to do an internal command called do settings sections. And this means like kind of output the settings section. And it's going to ask for what we want to output here. And we're going to go GPT chat. Actually, I need an underscore. GPT, let's see, chat. And actually what it is taking here as a parameter, I should have been a little more clear. It's actually taking the slug of the page, because this has to be connected, okay? The setting and the slug of the page and the settings actually have to be connected. And you'd ask yourself, well, how do we know the slug of the page? Because we set it last video when we added the menu page, we gave it the slug. So the do settings section actually connects it to the page slug. It's pretty cool. Make sure that everything stays really nice and tight and together. And then the last thing we have to do is we have to overwrite the forms when somebody submits this page. And fortunately, that's built into here too. And it's just called submit button. All right. So now what we have here is we built a very basic form that's going to set up, it's going to tell it hidden fields for security, which group we're pulling from. We're going to create our own settings group. It needs to tell what section it wants to output. And in order to do that, it needs to know the slug of the page they need to match. So in this case, they do. And then the submit button. Okay. And then we're going to reopen our PHP and we're going to scroll on down and we're going to create a new register settings feature. And then we got to go hook it in our and where we hooked the admin menu, we're going to add a hook to register these settings. So actually, let's do that first before we get too ahead of ourselves here. Here's what we're going to do here. So actually, one thing that we need to do in this is we have to, like I said, we have to hook in our new settings into the WordPress database, or it won't know what to do. And so instead of writing it brand new, since it's going to work exactly the same way, we're just going to say add our new plugin options for saving. And so what we're going to do is copy from the last one we did, since we're loading it exactly the same way, except for what we're going to change is instead of hooking the admin menu, remember I talked about the bus? The bus is now asking, do you want to add things to the, do you want to add settings? I do. And in that case, we have to hook into the admin init, and that's going to allow us to do that. And then it's going to call to the same class in order to find the, when the admin init says, hey, what do you want to add? We're going to tell it, go over to that and look at this function right here. And this function will tell you what to do. So remember, we could have called it anything we want. We could have called it like register Mountain Dew or register, like banana or something. It doesn't make a difference. So as long as we come back over here now and we create a new public function, and we're going to call this one, oh yeah, that's right, the name. And register settings. And now that admin init call, when it hooks in, is going to call to right here, right? All right, beautiful. So now we're ready to do some more stuffs. And so let's register some settings. WordPress by default has the ability to register settings by an internal call, just like you can call settings fields, just like you can call submit button, just like you can call add menu page. There's one for registering settings, and it looks a little something like this. You say admin setting. Wow, amazing, right? You never could have guessed it. And it takes two parameters. It wants a setting group. Remember how we talked about a group? So all the settings are part of the same group. And it wants a setting name. Does that make sense? It wants that setting name in the database. So what is our setting group? Do you remember? Can you guess it? It's right here. Because we established it up here when we created our new settings fields. It's not that we established it here. It's just that when we named it in the settings fields, it needed to be the group name we were going to use. So we just kind of pre-figured it out up there. And then right here, after our new group, we now have to give each field its name. And what did I say we were going to do? We were going to do probably five fields. So we're going to use API token, the name of the GPTs, and their instructions. Later videos, we're probably going to add temperature settings and a few other things also, which is no big deal. We'll add those at a later date. We're going to keep it as simple as possible for now. We're already at 10 minutes. This is probably going to go to 20 because there's a lot to do here. So in the register settings, we're going to go like this. We're going to call it something like a GPT chat API token. So now we have a variable in our group called GPT chat API token. And that's going to be a new setting that we can read and write to from our plugin. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all the rest since they're exactly the same, and then I'll show them to you. I will be right back. All right, so here we are back, as long as hopefully it's recording. And so as you can see, it was exactly the same thing 5 times. It was just making sure that we established the register settings to the right group, and then the setting in that group. In this case, we have the unique names as GPT, the token, the name 1, the name 2, the instructions, and the instructions 2. Because we're going to make sure each one, remember Godzilla, Mothra, Batman, Joker, like we can do really whatever we want here, you know, like anything, Atlantic, Pacific, you know, and have them argue which one makes better hurricanes. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, we can do whatever we want. It doesn't matter here. And I think the Atlantic wins, by the way. So, okay. So what we're going to do now is drop a couple lines, and we got to add what's called a section. So we're going to add a settings section. And this is how it knows where the section that we're going to add the fields to. Because remember I said there's a section that displays do settings section, and it has the page slug, and it knows to output a settings section. We now need to make that settings section for the fields to display in. This is all kind of like a security built-in thing for WordPress. This was one of the most confusing things I dealt with when I first started building plugins, was like, man, the settings are so kind of confusing. But once you understand it, it's not that big of a deal. So add settings section. So this is going to take 4 parameters from us. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what it wants is, the very first one it wants is a unique section ID for this section on the page. And this, so you can have multiple sections, I believe. So let's do, so it knows which one you want to display these fields to. You can add them to this field particularly. I'll make sure to actually comment this part because it's like more confusing. This is the section ID that you're going to add your fields to. The next one is the title of the section. You can give it a title, and I'm going to call this like GPT main settings or something like that. And then this is, like I said, this is the section title. And then the third one is a callback for this. We're not going to do any callbacks in this section right now. We could probably do something like for that later, but at this case, we're just going to pass null because we don't want any callbacks at this particular moment. We're going to add fields to it from their own code below. And then the very last one is, the fourth one it wants, is the page slug where this is going to be displayed. And if you remember correctly, we already dealt with this above. Let's make sure that it's all the same though. I did underscores, I think, in one, and I think that was a mistake. I did. This one I did underscores, and that was a mistake. So this one shouldn't have been underscores. This one should have been just hyphens. Okay, so you see we have the same thing going all the way through. The new menu page has this slug. The do setting sections is putting out on this slug, and this is the section that's going to put out. And that's the section that's going to actually output on that, all right? So that's what's going to happen here. That's the sections that it's going to be calling to. Is it's going to be pulling from this and pulling it, and it's displaying it there. So that's how that works. And now we have a section settings set up. So we can move on to the next part, which is we need to start adding our fields into these sections. And we have, let's see. So let's go ahead and add our settings field. And the way we're going to do that is, you're going to guess that one too, right? Add settings field. And these are the fields that are going to be added to that section that we just made above. And here's another part where we're going to copy and paste, because once I get the first one and I display it to you and I explain how it works, because you have to like build a bunch of them that are all the same. So it's going to take, let's see, 5 parameters. And the first parameter that it's going to take is, it wants to know the name of the setting that it's going to be displaying. So if you look above at our registered settings, you're going to see the very first one is our GPT chat API token. That's the very first setting that we're going to add to the field in order to write and save to. So let's see, the field name or field ID. And then number 2, it wants what's going to display next to its field. In this case, let's just call it, I don't know, API token, I guess that's fine. Yeah, display name, or hold on. Okay, the display name. And then, yeah, that's good. Remember I said about it being cold out here? All right. And then the third one it wants is a callback. Now this is really important. And if you remember the way we've been doing callbacks in this whole series so far, we're going to refer as an array. We're going to refer to this class that we're in, and we're going to give it a callback for how we want this field to display inside of the section. So we're going to call this like maybe API token field. I was almost going to stop there, but let's just go callback also. So that's what's going to display, and you'll see we're going to echo out and output a field for this. Display the field, basically, is what we're going to call this. Display the field with code. That's a little more descriptive, so it's more obvious. And then we have the next two are it has two things that it wants. It's going to want the slug of the page, and then it's going to want the section. So in this case, the slug of the page is GPT. As you know, we've been doing it the whole time. Chat and settings. That's the name of the page that it's on. This is the page slug that this refers to, the section it's on. And then it wants the section that it's being added to. And remember, we gave that section ID a title right here where this field is going to add to. So it's going to add there. Remember I said this part of WordPress was confusing for me at first. So, and then it wants, that's the section to add to or to display in. All right, so now what we have to do is do this for the remaining, how many was there? 4. Remaining 4 of these. So I'll do that real quick and I'll be right back with you. Did you miss me? All right, here they are. We wrote this first one, or we wrote the API one, and it has all the comments, and then here's the others. So each one is kind of doing the same thing, except for they're named aptly with their corresponding group register setting, and then they have their callbacks. Now you're going to say to yourself, well, what about those callbacks, Josh? Josh. Well, I got you. So down below here, we're going to write a function once again for the first callback, and then we will write the others. I'll write them off screen, and then I'll load back in. So the first callback is what? API token field callback. So that's our first one that we're calling to as a callback. And so now we need to display the field. In WordPress, the way that you do this and you get an option from the database that's been saved is you use, guess what? Get option. I know, how crazy, right? That's like insane, right? That's a built-in WordPress feature. So we're going to call to our API. We're going to actually create a new variable called API token. This is not a variable from inside here. This is one we're creating right here. And we're going to use something in WordPress that goes like this. Get option. Wow. And then it's going to ask us, what's the option you're getting from the database? Well, what option did we call this? If we scroll back up again, remember we registered a setting and we called it GPT chat API token. It doesn't need the group in order to get this. It can just get it by get option. So you put this in here, and now this variable is going to equal whatever is saved in the API token that the user saved on the front end. Okay. So let's hit a new line and let's echo out the callback, or what we're going to show the user in that form field. So that's what this is going to do. This code is actually going to display in that form field. Let's just make an input. Like, we're going to do it like HTML. So we're going to say type, and let's make this a text field so that the user is able to enter their API key as a text field. And then let's name it. We have to name it the same thing to save to the database again. So you're going to want to get GPT chat API token. That's what you're going to want to put in the name, so that when it saves and it goes to the options page we created above, like right here, when options reads this name of this field, it's corresponding to its option name, and so it knows how to store it in the database. All right, and then we're going to do, let's see, we want to output the existing value if there is one. So let's open this, and then let's jump outside, and let's do some concatenation, and let's do a escape. There we go. That's what I want. And I want to put that variable in there so that the variable gets written out as text, and make sure that this thing gets written out as text, period, whatever's put in there. And then let's open a new line, and let's make sure, or no, can't do that. This one. And let's make sure that we close that value. And then let's give it a class. Do I want to give it a class? I don't know. Let's just say regular text. I guess that's fine. And then we're going to close the statement. All right, so take a look. So what we just did there is now when the field, so we're almost done. So we're pretty much at the end. So when this field gets built and displays on this page, or this section. When the section gets displayed inside of this submittable form, first it's putting in some hidden data fields to protect our form. That's a WordPress security built-in feature. Second, there's a do settings section on this page, which knows it's going to output some settings, and there's a submit button. In our register settings, when the plugin loads, when we hook in the plugin, this is before that page is ever built, we are hooking in or registering some new settings. And what we registered was all of this group and all of these setting names. And we have to register a section so that all of these fields can be added to a section, and that section can display on this page because they all have the same slug, so it knows where to go. And we created all of our fields, and then we created a callback for that to display the field. So when this field says, hey, I'm the API token field, and I want to display for the user to be able to submit me, I'm giving it this code here. And so it's creating a text input field that can be put back to the database. So what I'm going to do is just hit it real quick, make the last fields, we're going to test it, and that'll be the end of this this video. So let me just get that done, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So here we are. And you missed me a second time, didn't you? Don't lie. And so here we are. So here's everything ready to go. Here's the callbacks for each thing. Everything's named aptly and put in, and they're all displaying exactly the same way, except for text area. This is a text area being displayed down here. This, we're actually using a text area input because this is bigger for them to put in there. It's like multi-line for them to put in their GPT instructions. So barring anything unforeseen, we should be able to add this into our WordPress, and everything should go off without a hitch. And if I'm not a complete moron, so we will see about that. Let me pull open you guys know what I do. I pull this open, and then I pull open my GPT talker file, and I'm adding it directly. I'm only doing this to avoid having to load the plugin via the add a custom, add a plugin through the dashboard. I can just add it and then go refresh, and it's already in there. So that saves me a little bit of time here. So let's hit it. And I know we're double time here. This one was going to be a little longer because I was describing savable options, which is a big deal in WordPress. So, okay, here it is. Let's activate it. And everything went off without a hitch. Let's go to GPT Talker settings and add it in. And there we go. Oh, I already have some values. Oh yeah, because I had actually done this before. Like I said, it's part of a tutorial series that I've done before. So anyway, so they already have some values in them. Let's just go ahead and save them blank, so that way they overwrite. Okay. So as you can see now, here's what it has, right? We have our GPT Talker settings page and our forms being output that we made. And here is each thing. It's the GPT name, the token, the instructions, just like we wrote in our code, just like what's sitting down in our code in here. The settings sections are being output, and they're calling to their these HTML as their callbacks, or that echo statement. And now when we do something, now when we submit the button, it should save those settings into that settings field. So like you already saw, if I was to say the first person is Mothra and the second person is Godzilla, and then we save those changes, those will be there even after the page refreshes. And that's because, remember, we're outputting the current variables that already exist in this lower code right here. Remember, we're actually getting the value option, and then we're outputting it in the field. So we're actually able to display to the user, oh, hey, there's already something in there. And so that way, these are ready to go. So once we have this setting up, now we're going to move into some other exciting parts too, because we're going to be dealing with some really fun stuff next time. Also, we're actually going to be starting to take this information and doing something useful with it. And we're actually going to start, I think we're going to start reading and writing from our database so that we can have it not our database, our table. I always use those interchangeably, I'm so sorry. Table, so we can start actually getting it ready to start inputting and taking messages from the OpenAI API when we write those parts in. So, hey, double time. I knew this one was going to be long. I warned you at the beginning, didn't I? I'm pointing at the microphone like I'm talking to you. And I look forward to see you guys in the next one where we get moving and grooving on that. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, will ya? You should hear all that that beautiful echo in this office I'm in. So, all right. So I hope you guys learned a little something from that. And I look forward so much to seeing you guys in the next part where we just keep rock and roll. And I'm pretty excited about this plugin, and it's going to be our kickoff for doing a bunch of GPT related stuff. So, all right. Thanks for watching. See ya.